Recording in progress.
And here we are again with you this evening. Welcome to Casting the Net with Coach Rice. I'm your host, Coach Rice, your professional certified mental health life coach, speaker, trained counselor, and mentor. And you remember this podcast is I'm casting the net. I'm casting it wide so you can get the inspiration, encouragement, and practical tools that you need to live your everyday life. It's all about you and your mental health and well being. I just want to introduce you to my special guest, Angie. Is it Picardo?
Pichardo.
Pichardo. Pichardo.
Pichardo.
She is a life coach, a spirit and spiritual guide that's passionate about helping women overcome depression, anxiety, and negative thoughts. I tell you, I cannot wait to talk to her because she has a powerful story as she personally faced anxiety, depression, and even suicide, and died and came back to life. So she called it God giving her a second chance, and we're going to delve into that. And so as we go into this, before we get started, Angie, tell us, where are you from, and tell us about this amazing journey, I would say, that you had to come to the conclusion of where you are right now.
Mhm. Well, let me start, Martha, by saying thank you for the invitation, for having me here and just to share the story for those, that are just looking to have the tools, as you mentioned, to be happy, to live the day by day, especially if they're in those negative states like depression and anxiety. For me, well, I'm Dominican and I'm originally from New York, but I reside in Pennsylvania now. And yeah, like you mentioned, all of those things came about. I've been here like about 5 years or so, and that's where everything kind of started when I moved to Pennsylvania. So if we're gonna like jump right in, here's the full story because I had to
Let's hear
say
it.
how everything happened and all the stuff in between, again, to see where I am now and what I say and like what I preach about, like to everyone. Because when I came here to Pennsylvania, I was in a relationship with this man, 8 year relationship. We were engaged, we thought we was going to get married. But then things just started to shift and change. The relationship changed. And then of course COVID hit where we're stuck in the house 24/7. And I feel like that's where it really just hit the fan. I mean, I'm pretty sure like everyone has a COVID story that
Yes.
went crazy. That's where it is. And then it got to the point that we couldn't even like live in the same house. Like he was upstairs, I was downstairs. There was no happiness. If he was pissed off, everybody in the house had to be the same feeling. But it was years upon that. And I kind of like got to me to that point where I fell in depression, anxiety every day, and developed even hyperthyroidism, like with the hormones and stuff.
Mm.
Like that's how crazy. Like the depression does affect the body inside.
Yes.
And then it just comes out like what's happening. So all of this developed, and it just really got to that point where I'm like, I am done. There was this one day that we had like a big fight. I was drinking, all of this involvement. I was like, I'm just done with everything. And then yeah, I did to take my life. So that same day, that story is a testimony right there because that same day I didn't die. I came back. The police came in, resuscitated me, all of this. Well, how did the police even get there, right? Because
Right.
it was crazy because it was like at 3 o'clock in the morning. I waited until that time to send my sister this message, saying my goodbyes, giving her access to my password and my emails and my bank account. I was even sending her money, like, please take care of my son. I know my son is going to be good. All of this. And I knew that I had to wait until that time because she would be sleeping. But that day, thanks God, she had a brand new baby and the baby did not sleep. He was colicky, so she was awake by the time that she got that message. And then obviously she got scared. She called the cops, still living in New York. She calls the police in Pennsylvania to do like a wellness check. So when the cops came in, then obviously that's when everything happened. I wake up in the ambulance, I go to the doctor. And it everything just happened so fast. But then I'm like, oh my God, I can't even do this right. Like, what's happening? So now all of this flood of emotions, negative emotions, comes again. And then I start crying. And then the guilt, and then the shame, and then embarrassment. Like, oh my God, I can't believe, like, now I have to live with everyone knowing that I did this, you know? But it took me some time to really understand, God. It just really comes to like the spiritual, because I didn't understand. So I was praying. My mom is a Christian, so she's like, this is God, it's not your time. And I was really heavily praying, going into churches, reading the Bible, try to understand, but why? Like, why me? Like, I'm the bad one out of everybody that he could save. Like, he saved me, right? So that I didn't understand right there. And like I said, it did take me a while, a lot of studying, a lot of awareness, and changing the mind and changing the thoughts and feelings to come to understand, well, God saved me for a reason, for a purpose. It wasn't my time, right? And then giving me the tools and me being able to learn how I can use these tools to not get to that place again. So I made a promise to myself. I was like, I never want to feel like that ever again. And of course, life is lifing, right? I have a 14-year-old teenager, so I'm always breathing and using my techniques so I don't lose it, right? Because I don't want to be upset. I don't want to be stressed out. And if I have like a busy day at work or whatever, now I'm able to use those things to kind of ground me back again and not let the environment take over to get me to that spot. Yeah, I might be upset. Yeah, I might be stressed out. Yes, I'm having a meeting, and I'm kind of anxious about it, but I'm not letting it get to that place where it's like I only see red, negative. So yeah,
Wow.
so that's
Thank you so much for sharing that, because it happens more often than not.
Mhm.
And I think that, it's amazing, and I'm thank God that he did not allow it to happen, because he has work for you.
Mhm. No, and even that's also something that I've learned, because at the beginning I talk about it openly now, but it took me a while to even say it, because again I was ashamed and
Yeah, I'm
everything.
sure.
But it's like I'm looking and I'm in these groups, and I have like a home group in my church and stuff. And this is like a thing. Like, people do go through that, and they don't say nothing, they stay quiet. They suffer in silence and isolation. And I'm here to tell you, like, girl, this is something that is common, but there's a solution. Like, we don't have to get to that point, especially to that deep where you want to take your own life, kind of thing,
Because you
you
went
know?
to a really negative stage where you really was so you really your limited beliefs and all the things that you were thinking landed you in a very dark place.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so with that, how do you utilize what had all of the experience that you've had, because that's what it happened not to you, before you,
Mhm.
and how do you utilize that with your clients today?
Well, understanding the environment, right? Because again, living in that environment, I thought I didn't have an escape, right? And some people, they stay in the relationship, or they stay in the job that they don't like, or they stay where they know it's uncomfortable, because I saw the signs. I was praying to God, please, take him away. Like, if this relationship is not working, take him. But how many times did another fight come about? Did another fight come about? Like, those were my ticket out, but I'm like, I don't want to, because of like the fear of now I'm gonna be alone. I already invested 8 years of my life with this man. Like, we're gonna be together. So that's what I tell my people, my clients. That is like, if you have to analyze your environment, if you can remove yourself from the situation, go for it, because the other side is way better than staying there. And that's also like the
Mm,
staying in the comfort zone, right? Like this is all I know. This is all that's happening. I'm just gonna stay here rather than seeing what's outside, you know? So it's always look at the situation. If you can do something about it, change it, get out, look for help. And I think that's one of the things that I didn't have. I didn't have the help. I didn't even know that it was help. So that's why I like to go out there. I talk about it freely now because again, you're not alone, right? They're not alone. We're
right,
going through the
right.
same thing. And I already been there. So I can tell you the techniques of how to get out there. Like if it's a crazy situation, again, like a really like abuse, physical abuse, and you have to cautiously get out, well, there's options for that too.
Yes.
Yes. But it's always like realizing, first of all, this is the situation. What can I do to get out of it? And that's where like the awareness comes from too. Because sometimes we're in a situation and we don't even know that it's toxic because this is all I know.
Right.
That I'm not happy. Like, oh
It
my
is
God,
so
I hate my
true.
job, but I'm literally not happy, but I could still could come back. But there's other jobs, you know, that you can
Right.
go. There's, and it's not only about like the relationship, there's other things, you
Right.
know, like what are we doing about it? And that's something that I always talk about. Like, if there's something that you can do it. And then obviously helping because they come up and they say, I don't know what to do, but what do I do? Okay, well, let's look at what avenues you can do. And that's kind of how I work with them.
I love your
And also,
passion, and I really do. I love your passion and
mm,
how you could tell that you're dedicated to the work that you do. When you were, I know people probably ask you this question. How did you know you had, like, when that you had literally actually died? You actually died and came back to life. Did they tell you that? How did you? What was that like for
yeah.
you? What was that like for you?
Oh my God, I do get asked that question because yeah, it's like the ambulance and the cops, they did tell me they had to resuscitate me. So at some point, I don't
Okay.
know how long, but at some point, flatline, they had to bring me back. But I don't remember like exactly, but I do remember the feeling because I did had the feeling that I wanted to go to sleep and I didn't want to come back. And everything that I did was this is it. But I do remember like a pull and then just coming back. But it wasn't after, like when I was in the hospital and I'm like talking to the doctors and just by myself, like in this room by myself, and I'm just praying. And then that's when I like hear that comfort from God. And he's like, it's not your time. It
Mm.
wasn't your time. And I'm like crying and everything. I'm like, I don't understand. But it's a beautiful thing now. And I'm like, I talk about it all the time with everyone. Like this is something real. And spiritually it does grow. It did grow because now I'm like, well, so what's the purpose? So like you brought me back, God. So now what do I do?
Right.
What do I do?
You have a
You
work
know,
to
and
do.
what are we
And
gonna
you
do? Yeah, and it's again, I'm like, I just want to live life serving of service and doing what I need to do, being a good person, but at the end of the day, just being happy and content, right? We
yes.
all know that like the happiness and again the depression, anxiety, all of that, that's a mental state. And I always talk about, well, let's be happy. And some people they tell me, well, I don't even know what makes me happy. I'm like, how do you even know?
Right.
Like we know we
Time
have
to
to be
explore.
happy inside, but there's other things that can bring you that like that same thing of the environment. Like if you're in that toxic environment all day, every day, that's what you're gonna feel. But if you put yourself in a peaceful environment, in a happy environment, in an upbeat environment, and with other people that kind of are in the same way, you're gonna end up feeling like that. And you're like, oh, today I feel good today. You know, I took a walk, meditation, prayer, music, like just anything to get you out of that funk, that negative thinking, and slipping. And then you can see the change.
So, what do you have going on in the future? Like, what's next?
Well, I am happily engaged
Oh,
after all of
nice.
that, see, and that was prayed for and worked on and
Congratulations.
my thank you, thank you. So like my own, healing in all of the transition. So I did find that a good man, and he um I don't know, it's like wedding, continue helping people. I'm very active at my church, so I have my work there, and just making the world better day by day, person by
Awesome.
person. That's that's what I'm,
What is your
you know,
onboarding process for your business?
well, onboarding. So I do have anywhere that they can contact me, my email, my Instagram, my Facebook. So the clients will reach out to me. I do a consultation call. So just to kind of see where are they at. And obviously if it's a good fit, if we can help, if I can help, because sometimes I've gotten that I have to decline because they're just asking for questions. But then when we're putting in like, okay, well, these are the things that I want you to do, let's say week one, homework, because I give them homework. Let's do an assessment. What are you going to do? What are your goals? And I don't see that willingness. I'm like, okay, it's not gonna work. But obviously, we keep out like the good messages, the encouraging messages, and that. But it's more like I work with people that are willing to work, because one of the things that I know that I learned is you cannot force someone to change,
No,
right?
they have to be
I've
ready.
been trying. I want to like grab them and shake
Yeah.
them, and I'm like, oh my
That's
God,
when you
like
want it
even
more than them, right? And
yes.
and that's not good.
And that's not good. And it's like, yeah, you're coming to me because you realize that you have, your negative thoughts or negative feelings, and you're in a situation and you just want to do something better. Like, oh,
Right.
2025 came about, like, let's do some goals, working in the gym, or getting a new job, whatever the case is. But then just by like the way they're talking, the negative, like, well, I can't do that, the stuck mentality. And I'm like, you see, you're doing it right now. See, you're doing it right now. And it's just like that awareness. And if they don't want to work, then I'm like, okay, maybe another time. Come back when you're ready, kind of thing. But other than that, my clients are good. We do have I work with them for like 3 to 6 months, and then I let them go, and then they come back. But their stories, the transitions. Oh my God, I applied this. Even by the simple gratitude, doing gratitude in the morning. That's one of the homeworks that I do. Tell me 3 things, 5 things that you're grateful for. Because that's one thing that I noticed that changed the negative mentality right
Yeah, because
away.
it shifts
And
your
even
brain. You cannot do both
it
at the
just shit.
same time.
Exactly. Exactly. And one thing is like if you're thanking God for like the things that you do have, then you're not gonna be focused too much on the things that you don't have,
Right.
you know? So that's one of the things that I'm highly passionate about. Like, what are you grateful for? Tell me 5 things. Oh, I don't have nothing to be grateful for. I'm like, look around. There's tons of
Yes.
things. One time I said, I'm like, aren't you grateful you have toilet paper? I'm grateful I have toilet paper. I'm grateful I have like little things like that around the house, that we take for granted.
Exactly.
But then there's other people that don't have. And I'm like, look how, we have it good. Things could be so much worse, but they're not. So let's focus on that. And that helps shifting little by little. And then it works. It's just it's science. I don't know. It's a
Right.
science. It works. The
That's
whole mind
awesome. I'm
shifting.
so glad that you're doing the work that you do. Do you speak? Have speaking engagements? Do you speak to an audience? Because I see you can be. It seems like you should be doing something like that as well.
Well, I do at church.
Okay.
And like I said, at church, I am part of a 12-step program. Again, part of recovery and healing and getting better. And that's another thing that I, talk about, like addiction. Mine was alcohol. And I have been 1 year without drinking alcohol. So I speak a lot there and
Okay.
at church. But that's about
I
it.
kind of sense you have that motivational speaking anointing on you.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Like we got this. That's what
Right.
I say. Because again, if I went through it and I'm not special, if I came from there and I'm here, you guys can do it too. And that's what I tell them all the time.
That is
You guys
amazing.
can do
Which
it.
I was I don't know if that's the only advice you have, but that was the next question I had. What advice would you give? One piece of advice that you would give the audience? I know you got plenty, so you can give me another one.
A few of you. No, I'll give like the one that I always say is look for the positive. And that's a homework forever and daily that I do. In any situation, look for the positive. Oh, it's so hard. Sometimes I can. This is no, look for the positive. And with that, I'll tell you a little story where I came about with that, right? So after all that happened, and I'm like really into God, and I'm going to church, and now God, where's what's my mission, what's my purpose, kind of thing. I get hit with another thing when my son got hit by a car, and I literally saw how he got hit by the car on my ring camera, and I saw him like flew by. And I was like, oh my God, my son is dead. I even crashed when I saw it because I was like driving. I don't encourage
Mm.
that, but I'm like driving looking at the video because I'm like, they called me at work and I had to see the ambulance and everything. So at that point, what do I say? I'm like, God, if I'm trying to do good and I'm trying to follow you, why do you let this happen? Why? Right? So again, in conversation, God tells me to make me stronger. What am I going to do? What else am I going to do? Am I going to pull back my always, or now am I going to hold on to him? So my positive thing out of that, and again, the healing prayer works because my son is fully healed. He has surgery. We even pray with the doctors. Everything worked out.
Wow.
But why did that happen was always the question. And I truly believe that it's maybe like God testing or whatever, or just allowing things to happen to see if I was going to pull to him and not fall back to my old ways. And I
Mm.
did. So that's something that I take pride in. And that's to me, that's like my positive thinking out of that whole situation. Because I could have been sonless. Like my son could have died or brain
And
damage
it's
or,
interesting that.
something.
No,
What
I'm
was that?
sorry. Go ahead. It
No,
was.
it's just that. And then just thinking like, oh, that could happen, but obviously it didn't. So now that comes gratitude. Thank you because he didn't die. Thank you.
Yes.
You know? So
And you got a
that's like I
chance to
said, that's just
experience God in a way that as comforter, as healer, as protector. You got a chance to experience him through a lot of his attributes,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Wow.
I do.
I can't
I
imagine going through that moment that you went. I can't imagine that. Like that is like the number one thing no one wants to experience, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And you experienced it
yeah.
and got
And I
through
would
it.
and got through it, exactly. And I was the type of person that I couldn't even see blood. Like I would pass out. I couldn't even donate blood. I would just pass out.
Mm.
But at that moment, when I saw like my son's leg, all discombobulated blood everywhere, like I know it's graphic, but something, I swear to you, Martha, something came over me. And I was like, I need to be strong. Because imagine I'm gonna pass out in this emergency room when my son needs me the most.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, God, come and be here with me, kind of
Wow.
thing. And that's where like the strength came. And after that, God, I promise I'll do anything you want. Like, just get me through any situation. And because I have that hope and faith, again, I can see the positive. God
Wow.
allows things to happen. Okay, let it happen. But at the end, it's going to be better. There's always a lesson. There's always something to look for, and there's always a positive side.
That is
Just like
so
there's a
true.
negative.
So, audience, listen. She gave a great piece of advice. Always look for the positive. That's homework,
Exactly.
right? Lifetime homework.
Lifetime homework every
Every
day.
day. Look
Every
for the
day.
positive because there's so much negativity out here, and we gravitate toward negativity anyway. So we don't really need that. We don't need no. We don't need help in that area. We need help looking at the positive, right?
Yeah, because that's our default. I
Right.
think like by human nature, that's like our default. That's why we have to work twice as hard,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know,
And so,
to
do you have any? Are you an author yet?
not yet.
Okay, it's
No.
coming. It's coming. No, look at me.
Okay, coming soon. Stay tuned. But no, as of now, no. Just a lot of short storytelling,
That's
and
amazing.
it's
And
a lot of.
I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show and telling your story and tell the audience how can they reach you.
Yep. So Facebook is Angie Pichardo, Pichardo. I do have my own podcast, so Happy Plus with me, Angie P, on Spotify and YouTube. And yeah, just send me or email as well, Happy Plus with me at Gmail, and just yeah, send me an email. Let's talk, let's chat. I do prayers. Like even if you just need a prayer, I'll send prayers your way. Like I said, I have a whole episode on prayers do work
Oh
kind of
my
thing.
goodness, I love it. You have to share your links with me so I can put it in the
Okay.
video as well as check out your podcast. That is awesome. I'm so happy to know that you have a podcast and you're sharing your voice with the world.
Yep.
And I praise God for allowing you to be here today to tell your story, you know.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me and to your listeners. I mean, again, we're normal people that God just used, and everybody has a purpose and everybody has their own story, and again, it's like, what are we doing to help the other kind of thing.
Yes, yes, and that's the goal is to this the goal of this show is to give you guys resources and places you can go for help in areas that we all need help in. So I just want to thank Angie for coming on today and embracing us with her presence and her story. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And just want to let the audience know if you feel this was helpful, please do share and subscribe to the channel so you can get more information and meet more amazing people like I'm meeting. And so
Mm-hmm.
I am so grateful, Angie, that you came on the show today. And I'm sure my audience really appreciates you sharing such a personal story that you have with us and how you overcame by the blood of the lamb.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Well, thank you